in the middle of a song. Aloha, everyone, or no one. This is a bit of a surprise cast. I kind of thought I would get it together in time, but I wasn't really sure. Anyway, if there's anyone out there watching this live, welcome. Hopefully my good pal Joe Gooch will come say hi. I just felt like, I should try to do something for the people in the UK, you know? So here I am on UK time, sort of. I mean, everyone's invited. Joe Gooch, yay, it's all worth it. I don't care if anyone else shows up. Aloha. And blimey. I don't think I used that properly. So, assuming you can hear and see me okay, I'm going to carry on as if I know what I'm doing. Much like in life, that's how I treat life. So this is, again, another sort of test run, informal live stream. Joe, if you can hear my voice, does it sound okay? Does it look okay? Let me know, and then that will determine the next thing that I say. I'll wait. I don't even know if there's lag on this thing, but I'll wait. Go ahead. Feel free to type it. Type. Okay. Coming through loud and clear. Okay, great. So that does determine it for me. I am going to do the Culture of Contact seminar series live streaming. Hold on, I got a cough. Don't watch this, anyone. Yes, because I want to cough into the microphone. That's why I'm going to do live streaming. Hopefully there will be farts and burps as well. So yes, instead of doing like an edited thing, I will do it live because my wife has convinced me that people enjoy the intimacy of a live chat and me sort of addressing their questions or concerns or whatever in the chat. So since I'm a robot who needs to be told these things, I'm going to take her advice. It'll all be live streaming because this seems to be working out. So what's funny is I've been thinking about what this actually is, like the sum total of what the Culture of Contact seminar series is. And I didn't want to admit it, but then Eureka this morning, it came to me why it's ironic and just fine to admit it. And what it really is like, I mean, it's a combination of my so-called enlightenment shtick with the so-called alien abduction shtick. And it ultimately is how to communicate with aliens. Now hold that thought, because especially if you saw yesterday's stream, you'll know that's not going to mean what those words lead you to believe it means. But that ultimately is what it is. And I just think like, that sounds crappy, that sounds culty, that sounds new agey, it sounds wrong. And will anyone except people who want to hear those things tune in? And then once they do hear what I actually have to say, will they tune out? But then it struck me, I won't spoil it because I'll be dealing with this later in the seminar series. But for those who read Urgency or who have ever heard me talk about my I Am Awakening experience, you'll be familiar with the fact that at some point the Learning Annex calls me up and says, "Hey, can you teach? We heard you're a teacher or a public speaker. I can't remember what. I think a public speaker. Could you teach a course for the Learning Annex called? It was something like Talking to Extraterrestrials." And I was not a public speaker at the time. I don't know who told them that to this day, but I said, sure, ting. And then, ultimately I did my thing where I told people what they don't want to hear. I did the opposite of how to talk to extraterrestrials. But now I feel like, this sort of is what I'm doing. This is the place where I'm at in my life now, where I could legitimately, with all these years of experience and interviews and doing the Project Core experiment, or not experiment, but survey, of experiencers. I think I got enough in the tank here, the old noggin, to actually do that. How do you communicate with this presence? What does it take? And, you know, when we think about that, I think in general, broad strokes, you either go to like channeling, remote viewing, you know, some sort of like psychic-y power, or you go to like the hero's journey, man. But the ultimate thing that we have to deal with first is ourselves, our sense of who and what we are. Because if we're wrong in that, if we're not the full expression of what a human being is that person going to be able to communicate with aliens? That person imagines such things as aliens, and then interacts with that imagining. And so we're going to get into what all of that is. And that's what this is going to be. I mean, ultimately. So it's going to be a lot of dealing with you first, which you have to do. You just have to like see it, because ultimately what needs to happen is a change in the human. And the only way that can happen is individually. It can't be done through like group meditation or religion or any of the things we've spent thousands of years trying. And we're going to get into why those don't work and what works and all of that. And, you know, I do Our Undoing Radio, which deals with these issues, but I'm going to try to couch it in ufology. But I'm not just couching it in ufology and using ufology as a tool for your own betterment. It has nothing to do with your betterment, honestly. But I'm not. I actually, on the one hand, I recognize that I am couching it in UFO stuff as a means to draw attention and get people who are interested in that to wake the F up. But it's also true that that is the necessary step. So both are true. So all of this self-awareness going forward, you know, I want to be the magician who shows you the trick as he's going along, because the trick isn't the trick. You know, the hocus pocus stuff of so-called spirituality and paranormal that we've all seen a million times and talked about a million times isn't the trick. And so it's time to get these things out of the way as the distractions that they are, using the languages that we are used to hearing, but using them differently. So that's what I'm going to be doing. All right. Next up on the docket is, just if I can even remember, there were a couple of things that I talked about yesterday that I don't think I fully said what I needed to say, which is first was on the Kona Blue document. And if those of you didn't tune in yesterday, last week, this week, a few days ago, the government of the U.S. released the Kona Blue document, which is basically a proposal to extend the ATIP program. Don't ask me what that stands for. I don't remember, but I'm sure most of you know this. It was kind of like the government was like, we got to close this UFO program down because it's stupid. And then the people who were involved were like, yeah, but can we just call it something different and make it stupider? And how they were going to make it stupider was like concentrating on things we don't know exist, such as crash retrievals with their biologics, and in part trying to figure out like what these metamaterials are and these bodies that we don't know exist, figure out who they are and what they're for and all of that through remote viewing. That was part of it. And the thing that I didn't explicitly state is like my confusion in reading the document, where they go from like what sounds like good old technical jargon to, oh, and we're going to be using remote viewing. Like that disconnect that I was having reading that, because it's so jarring to not have any explanation or any technical detail of what remote viewing is or involves. It's just like we're all supposed to know, including the people in Homeland Security, or, you know, wherever this document was ultimately going. I think it was Homeland Security. I think they felt that disconnect too, which is why in reading their explanation for why they were not going to fund this, they were never going to fund this, they're going to shut this shit down right away. I think that was like an alarm bell went off somewhere of like, oh, these are not serious people who work for us. Which, why wouldn't you fire them at that point or suspend them from their duties or, something? I don't know. Like, I would be worried if I were working there and someone came up with this sort of belief system being imposed as like a truth-finding mission. But anyway, I think that disconnect was felt by not just me. Rob Simpson says, great to get onto your live stream, listening in from the UK. Oh, good. Really like where you're going with this. Oh, excellent. And I'm glad there are at least 2 people from the UK, because I really am doing this for the UK, really for Joe Gooch, because Joe Gooch, and I forgot to say, he also did the music for He's So Vaeni. He's done the music for like this, Culture Contact, The Experience Podcast, He's So Vaeni, the Living Mystery Symposium, and I don't remember because so many people were involved in making the Paratopia, what became the Paratopia theme song, but he was probably involved in that too. So Joe Gooch does amazing work, and he's extremely generous, and I just didn't want him to miss out on a live stream. Like, wow, what a payment that is, huh, Joe? You're welcome. We do what we can, right? But Joe, you're always welcome to Hawaii, so we've always got a home for you here. Come on down. Rob Simpson, not you. You start giving me some music, and then you can come to Hawaii too. I'm just going to laugh to myself. How much of my day do you think is just me laughing to myself about things that no one else finds funny? Probably a lot of it, more than I care to admit. So that was one thing. What was another thing? There was something else that was even like more pressing than that, and I could have written them down and prepared for this, but I didn't know if I was even going to make it. My wife is out of town, you see, and we have animals, and juggling animals and then trying to like get over to this building to do this is a stretch in the morning when you're a guy who doesn't like to stretch. So, but I did it. Ooh, Tracy Fassetti, friend from high school alert. Hey, was listening on Facebook, but followed you here. Joe says, yes, wrote the Paratopia theme with Jeff. Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Joe deserves money, folks. I don't know. Joe, do you have a Ko-fi or Ko-fi, as I like to call it, account or something like that we can direct people to? That would be nice. Because you ain't getting it from me. I need the for the first time in my life in a long time, I kind of need the money. But if I ever get too much money, Joe, you can have some of it. I don't foresee that, but okay. But if you have a link, put it in the chat and give it to me, and I'll post it too. Tracy, hey, how are you? So now I really don't remember what the hell it is I wanted to say from yesterday. Something about Kenneth Arnold? I don't know. I'm sure it'll come to me. But I do, maybe it'll jog my memory just to like reiterate. Basically, yesterday we went through Kenneth Arnold's actual life of sightings versus what we all know as the Kenneth Arnold story, and what we all thought was the deeper thing. So what we all thought was the Kenneth Arnold story was like modern UFO sightings began with him when he saw a flying saucer, or he saw 9 flying saucers in the sky in his little Cessna or whatever it was he was flying. And then the deeper thing that most of us have learned since 1940, whatever, 5, I think, or 7, 5 maybe, someone tell me, is that no, he didn't actually see flying saucers. He saw more of like a bat-shaped Chinese lantern type thing that kind of flopped around the sky like a fish. And actually, someone yesterday made a joke, and I didn't even catch it. It was at the very, very end where they were joke quoting Kevin Arnold saying he saw them flipping around like a cave, because I was mentioning caves. And there is a quote in the article, about him, or on Wiki at least, saying that they were flopping around like fish. So I apologize that I didn't get your joke. That was really stupid of me. But that's why we do live streams, so I can appear stupid and then try to tell you that what I'm saying is better than what you've already heard. So anyway, so now we all know that he didn't indeed see a saucer-shaped object, or 9 of them. But then the deeper thing than that, which gets to the root of all of this, is that it turns out he's actually probably a lifelong experiencer, as his daughter tells us in an article, that he had seen a bird just landed on my car roof out there and staring at me. That's got to be an omen of some sort. Just don't peck the hood. You're pecking the hood. Hey, out. I'm not leaving. Okay. Right. So the bigger thing is that he had at least, depending on the thing you're reading, 5, 7, 8 UFO sightings, at least one of which was corroborated and reported in the news, later in life, and came to believe that that this follows you around, that you don't just have one off. He apparently never believed that this was technology, although I think on Wikipedia, we didn't talk about this yesterday, it said that he wanted to tell the world or tell the government or whatever, just in case it was Russian technology or some foreign country. But then we learned that he never really believed it. So maybe he believed it for a bit, but in any event, what he evolved into at least was the idea that these were organisms or organic somehow. And one of the craft or whatever that he saw later in life was translucent like a jellyfish. And of course, this gets into we see jellyfish UFO that are organic. Well, no, you don't. Just like you don't see flying saucers until we mistake the movement of these things as the object. The metaphor or the analogy of a translucent jellyfish doesn't mean that he saw something shaped like a jellyfish. He did not. But that's what people started, in the deep cut of ufology. Like, you really have to be into it. But you'll find people have claimed to see jellyfish-like things. And then, of course, Jeremy Corbell comes out with a trash bag flying over a military base and says that that's a jellyfish UFO or something. That's a rough sketch, but something like that. So all of this is to say that even at the root of ufology, in that sense, with Kenneth Arnold, things are not what they appear. Oh, also, he believes that this is somehow connected with the dead, right? Which is, that's, Whitley Strieber territory, Jeff Ritzmann territory, other people territory. That in other words, it's deeper than just, I saw technology in the sky. I'm not sure if it's the Russians or aliens, but I saw, and then the phenomenon, the intelligence, perhaps does respond by conforming its shape to what people expect to see. It's possible. So there's that. But whatever's going on, it's definitely like we play the telephone game with it, and it's not a government conspiracy. That can come up later. There can be government conspiracy involvement or government co-opting of the subject, military co-opting of the subject to lead us in a certain direction. But it doesn't need to be. It can simply be that a reporter talks to Kenneth Arnold and says, "Oh, flying saucers, huh?" And then that's what catches fire in the world. And then when Kenneth Arnold says, no, we don't hear that. We don't hear the no part for decades. And then finally it breaks through, and you'll see that on the History Channel. But we still never heard the part, as far as I know, of him being in this is like you've got to go to a footnote on Wikipedia and click that and be brought to an article you've never read. Where his daughter talks about this recently. So why do I still have these headphones in when I've already canceled out my echo? Okay, those are gone. So that's the problem of the deep rooted problem of ufology is that we fill in our own holes, our own narrative holes, our own, the unknown nature, all of that with the thing that is the most palatable, least common denominator, imagining possible, which is like, oh, flying saucers. And then it evokes, oh, aliens and all of that. And that's wrong. And it's clear that it's wrong now, right? Like, so the direction that the culture contact thing is going to go, and again, as I said yesterday, I'm going to tell you when I'm telling you a fact or, this is what I know from direct experience, using my life as a guinea pig to experiment on here in the public forum. And when I am not sure or when I am making an educated guess or otherwise, not 100% completely sure. So that we're not like world building out another fantasy simply because I'm not being straight with you on when I know and don't know something. And why I'm telling you this now, you'll see when we get into it. But if anyone's read my book, I'm to tell you this and I'm to tell you it is fiction, you already know why. So there's a teaser. Go read that. Or don't, because I'm going to give it to you free here. All right. There was all of that. Was there anything else I wanted to say? I don't know. Just, it would be interesting to think about is what if we did know this whole time that Kenneth Arnold had myriad sightings during his lifetime and did not believe that this was technology and had the theories that would be considered far out theories as late as the 1990s. They're not so far out now, but they finally set in. But imagine if they'd set in the 1940s or 50s. Would it even have been possible given the fact that people ran around saying, hey, fella, ma, say, ma? I mean, probably not. those church-going, just came off of owning slave types probably wouldn't have been able to hear such things, like they would have dunked the witch. I don't know. But maybe not. I guess one other thing, I had sort of, before I saw the Kona Blue nonsense, I was going to do Betty and Barney Hill thing, which I guess since I got some time here, let me just say this about that, because this gets into the other thing I was talking about yesterday about hypnosis being a bad memory retrieval tool. I do believe that Betty and Barney Hill had a legit experience. But before we get to that, I want to say this about Betty and Barney Hill. So Betty and Barney Hill are like, again, if Kenneth Arnold is the root of the UFO sighting, of the flying saucer, Betty and Barney Hill are the root of the alien abduction experience, right? Like these are the roots of the subculture of ufology. And, it's taken for granted in ufology that they saw what they saw and they experienced what they experienced, they were abducted and all this. And then, skeptics come along and would say, well, they had hypnosis, like someone like me would come along and say, well, you can't trust the hypnotically retrieved material. And that is true, you cannot. However, they, what do I want to say about that? You can't believe it. And furthermore, to be even further legit, like skeptical that everyone should be, should maybe look at, like, if you're going to quote their hypnotherapist, or you're going to quote their hypnosis, if you're going to stick with the hypnosis and say, no, this is real, then you got to look at like what their hypnotist actually said, which is, I believe they were both either dreaming or she was dreaming and shared her dream with Barney and then That's what we were retrieving under hypnosis, was basically confabulation from dream material, right? Like, if you're going to believe the hypnosis, why don't you believe the hypnotist? That's always sort of been my argument for not believing their hypnosis. However, there's still the fact that something happened to them, and I believe that they were experiencing what we call the abduction phenomenon. And the reason is, there are other reasons to believe this. Like, they were a biracial couple at a time when it wasn't cool to be a biracial couple. Would she have a dream and share her dream with her husband, and they would immediately be like, you know what, we got to come forward, we got to go public with this, we got to come forward, we got to do hypnosis in the first place, like, we got to figure out what this is. Like, that compulsion to find out what happened to them and then to be public with it as a biracial couple in the 50s or 60s, whatever, I don't remember when it was. You remember. You guys have better memories for dates. All of you do than me, trust me. But either way, you wouldn't do that. Like, you would have to be really masochistic to want to be public about, like, alien abduction or whatever happened to me, some mysterious thing. Because you know from living your lives as a biracial couple, the racism that comes at you, for her, the sexism that would come at her, like, these have to be factors. And you have to know, like, how this is going to affect your family. So you wouldn't do this because you had a bad dream, in other words. Like, that doesn't fly either. Sorry, hypnotist. So what we're left with is, again, a mystery. There seems to be some sort of involvement with another intelligence that we have covered up ourselves with our own definitions and with confabulation through hypnosis. And, you know, we'll never know the truth of what really happened to them. But we don't need to, because as a society, all that this phenomenon really needs from societies at large is to exist as a question. And even if we put an answer to it, it doesn't matter. They just need to be there in our consciousness for whatever reason. Maybe we'll get into that. But it needs to exist. It needs to be real enough to be talked about. It needs to have a language around it. And the phenomenon certainly doesn't seem to care what we think it is. Whether we do think it's demons or fairies or, you know, whatever, aliens, interdimensional aliens, whatever, crypto-terrestrials. It doesn't care what we say about it. It's still there. It's been there. So that's not the important part. The open contact and the disclosure that people are concentrating on isn't the important part. And the social role for this phenomenon is only important, again, to the extent that it must be acknowledged, whatever is actually beneath the mask or the facade that we put onto it, and that perhaps they play into. That's obviously not the important part. So what is it? Let's get into that moving forward. All right, that's enough out of me. Let me see if anyone's got anything here. Tad Rhodes says, Kenneth Arnold also said they were living beings. Right. And actually, you know, there's more, the UFOs were living beings. And I have seen in my life evidence for both, which means they cancel each other out. And I'll be going into it, but I mean, you know, the most obvious thing that I saw looked like a piece of technology, but it was so hyper real it looked fake. But then there were other instances with other people of lights in the sky appearing in ways that were synchronistic, or appearing here and then, you know, a year later appearing across town or whatever in a way that is personal to me. Or being up on Lion's Bald Mountain and telling a story of exactly what I'm skirting around here, and then a light appears and starts coming at us, and the moment I, you know, really take note of it, just it goes, it leaves. Um, and there was this other guy who was involved who saw it too. It wasn't just me. But, you know, this sort of winking at you thing doesn't feel like technology. I'm seeing a light. I'm not seeing a craft the way I saw a craft with windows and the whole thing in 8th grade. So, you know, what we tend to want to do with all of this stuff is one of two things: is either say, I don't believe it, I only believe the thing that I believe, or be open to all of it. Maybe there's a bunch of different things going on from all. I don't buy either of those. I think that there are appearances, and they are for different things at different points in your life, and that it is personal. There are no aliens, as I am fond of saying, that have like using their own alien tax dollars to like do R&D on how do I create a spaceship that traverses space and time or goes through a wormhole into another dimension so that on this specific date that will be meaningful for this schlub here in this little small town, we'll do a wink and a nudge, and then he'll know we're real, but it won't be real enough for everyone around him to think it's real. You know, like... But also, again, if it's a living being that is like shape-shifting and morphing into various types of things, I don't like believing that for the very fact that someone like, you know, Stephen Greer can like bring you out on a night watch, make you sign a non-disclosure agreement after you've paid your hundreds or thousands of dollars, whatever it is, to call in the aliens, and then you see a satellite or you see an airplane and he goes, oh yeah, that's the aliens, they shapeshifted. You know what I mean? So that's useless to me on that level. But I also just don't see the evidence that the silly putty aspect of it is the living organism. I mean, I really do think that this is more akin to like finger puppets on one hand. So here's a UFO, and here's a gray, and here's an angel, you know. But let's throw in one more thing that'll, you know, just, why not? Why not throw all the stuff on the table here? So I live in Hawaii, and there is a mythological creature called the Menehune. And the Menehune is, you know, described as a small being. It's a lot of people consider the Menehune to be sort of the fairy folklore of Hawaii. They're small beings that would come out at night back in the day, and they would like build things. And then there would be this perfectly built heiau, which is like a temple or something, you know, like I'm just using that as an example. And then everyone would be like, oh my God. So like the elite who were the royalty were kind of bastards. And they would be like, hey, you got to build this thing by tomorrow or next week, or, you know, it's curtains for you, rocky curtains. And all the people in the village would be like, how are we going to get this done? And then lo and behold, it would appear. And they'd be like, oh my God, the Menehune, they helped us. And then, of course, it takes sort of a new age bent even further into magical creatures. But then I also heard a story from an elderly haole person, which means not a Hawaiian. I don't even think it was on this island, but it was I'm going to butcher this, but it doesn't matter because it's close enough. I mean, essentially, I think he found a cave or something. He doesn't believe in Menehune and all that. And people were like, oh, that's like a Menehune cave. He's like, yeah, right. And he went into it. And he like lost time for like a day or two, something like some ridiculous amount of time, and came out. When he finally came to, he was like all woozy and weird. And like there was all sorts of like paranormally stuff attached to it. And now he's a believer. And I don't think it was on this island. I think it was in Maui. I mean, that would be kind of important because then skeptically you could say, well, if you went into a cave and it was like foggy with the volcanic fog or sulfur coming up, but the other islands actually don't have active volcanoes. This island has active volcanoes. But I don't think it was here. But either way, this is what I want to say. That Menehune story, here's a little known fact about Hawaii. We all know that there's the pre-Christianized Hawaiians who come from the Tahitian lineage. But prior to that, and everyone anthropologists are like, it's the Marquesans, people from the Marquesan Islands. Well, we're friends with Willie Iokea, who is the keeper of the Ka'u wisdom. So he is 100% pure pre-Tahitian Hawaiian, like actual real. I mean, they're all real Hawaiian at this point, but the pre-Tahitian lineage, which he himself does not say were Marquesan, so that's interesting. And so he's an old timer now, but he was given when he was a baby. He was told over and over again all the stories, and all through his life was told the stories. And the story he tells about the Menehune is, and actually this was not told to him as a baby or, but just like he came home and asked his mom once, what's the deal with this Menehune thing? And she told him the story of that it's basically the story of a mother's love for her child, that back prior to the arrival of Tahitians, when there were only a handful of families that were Hawaiians, you start interbreeding and the children are born broken. So some of the children are born broken, and you can't afford to have broken people when, you really are living in a survival of the fittest sort of scenario. And so the men apparently wanted to kill these kids, but the women, the mothers, didn't. So, and they were charged with, I guess, doing that or something. But the moms decided, essentially, they all conspired to hide their broken children in the forest and come up with and they would teach them how to be the best carpenters they could be, the best whatever it was that they could do. They taught them to be the best at that. And meanwhile, developed a sort of haunting story of, stay away from those woods because it's haunted, because bad things happen, and So the men never went in there and never found out that they were doing this. And so these were the people who would come out at night, who lived in the hills and would come out at night and build the best thing possible for the people, and then recede back and never be discovered because of the lore. And that, to me, smacks of reality. I don't know what you think of that story, but that is like, okay. So then the question becomes, if the Menehune story is grounded in that reality, then what is the mystical, magical thing that people start interacting with? What did my friend there see in the cave or experience in the cave that then gets attributed to the Menehune? Or was attributed to as a Menehune cave to begin with? Like, there's this magical sort of interdimensional space you never want to enter. Oh, yeah, right, I'm going to do it. Oh, collapse. What is it that people are seeing and interacting with and just calling it Menehune? Is that an example of a phenomenon that conforms locally to local stories that are reiterated over and over again? Do they sort of gather their own steam and become a pseudo-archetypal sort of consciousness? Or do they become the cloak that an actual intelligence puts on? I mean, doesn't matter if we pick answer A or B, we don't know, right? But it should sound familiar, because this sounds exactly like the so-called alien phenomenon, which was the fairy folk phenomenon, which was demons and angels. Right? So I'll just let that hang in the air. You enjoy that. Joe Gooch says, Kenneth Arnold also saw an orb floating in the room. God, I'm so blind. Oh, at his dead grandmother's wake when he was 7, which was also seen by others. So Orbs, eh? I've seen some orbs in my day. I didn't. We'll get into this on the culture contact thing, but you guys are probably already familiar with me. So it starts off where in life I'm like, oh God, am I an alien abductee? And then later in life, I'm still like, oh God, am I an alien abductee? But then also, sidebar, I have like a spiritual, I hate using the term, but this is how we know these things, enlightenment experience. And am now, since then, Kundalini alive 24/7. So if I shut up, this Kundalini activates and moves around and does sorts of interesting things. But one of the offshoots of that was seeing orbs. So I don't think I was able to see orbs. Outside of what I had sort of talked around, because I'm going to explain it much later, with my friends, these big giant globes in the sky. But like just like little orbs, there was a period of time where around 2000, well, I don't know, in the early 2000s to mid 2000s, where I would see these things all the time. And I would see differences. Like one that was bright, I think white, that was like smaller than a golf ball, bigger than a marble, maybe a large marble, that came, as I was meditating, floated in through the window, and I perceived it to sort of just be like, I don't know this, right? I'm going to say I don't know this. This is all my perception at the time. Is like it floated in through a window. It basically shrugged its non-existent shoulders, seeing like, it was basically like, okay, who is this dude who just entered my realm of like experience here? Oh, it's that guy? Who cares? And then floated back out. So that was one kind of orb. But there was another sort of like, I would see them whenever I would talk to Nancy Burns. For some reason, there was a period of time, I don't talk to her at all anymore, but when I was writing for UFO Magazine, I would talk to the editor, we would just chit chat, and I would be sitting on the couch in one place that I lived, or lying on my bed in another place that I lived, and in either place, up in the corner of the room would be an orb or two orbs kind of like dancing around. And it wasn't bugs, it wasn't dust. I mean, they were lights. There were self-contained lights, and they would come in through the wall and out. And I would tell her this as we're talking on the phone. But it was literally like, as we're talking, when you get into a deep conversation, your headspace goes to a different place. So in both of these instances, the common denominator besides just me is like my headspace not being normal headspace. So it would be interesting to know if that is universally true, like if Kenneth Arnold was in sort of a deeper, less, not completely selfless, but, less selfie, less the self of the shallows and more the self of the depths, because he was at a funeral that he could see this orb. That would be interesting to note. But again, here we have orbs. Again, we have a UFO type of orb that is bigger, that does, dances around in the sky. And then you got these little orbs that come in and dance around your room. And in both cases, people want to say aliens, or these are beings, or ghosts, or spirits, or whatever, whatever spin it is. But let's just take note that this is across the spectrum of subjects that classically are kept compartmentalized. Hey, if any of you have seen orbs in the chat here, just let me know, were you of normal consciousness when you saw them? Or were you spaced out? Or were you meditating? Or were you in deep contemplation? Or just, relaxed within yourself and not out in the room, you know what I mean? It'd be interesting to know if that's a universal factor in being able to see them at all. Where are you from, buddy? Says Irish Guy 28. You talking to me? Am I the buddy? Am I your buddy? Originally, I am from Massachusetts. My adult life, mostly New York, the U.S. But then in 2012, I moved to Hawaii, and that's where I be now. So, Spank Flaps. which is either the greatest or the worst name in history, depending on your point of view. Imagine the hypnotist tuning into Mr. Arnold. What's the frequency, Kenneth? I see what you've done there. Well, let's actually, I'm going to take your point anyway, even though that's a joke. Imagine if, maybe he did, I don't know, but imagine if Kenneth Arnold got hypnotized. What would he say he had seen? Would it be some extravagant alien abduction scenario? Would the flying saucers that were not saucers have landed? Don't know, but it's quite possible. And then we'd all be believing that, and we'd all be wrong. And while we're arguing over whether we're right or wrong, meanwhile, there's the phenomenon that exists that doesn't care whether we're right or wrong. And that's the part that I want us to focus on, is that skeptics and debunkers are great to the point that within whatever their expertise is, they can narrow down the signal from the noise, right? And then you've got the other side, which is like, has to do the pullback and say, but this is still real. It doesn't matter that you just debunked 8 or 9 of these things, because that 10th one is still an anomaly. And then the debunker will be like, but it's just a matter of time until we get the 10th one. And then the believer's like, yeah, but no, it isn't, because it's real. And then there's the actual phenomenon, which I know because I'm a lifelong experiencer, which is, looking at all of this and doesn't give a shit. So that's the important point, is why doesn't it matter? All of the things that we're arguing about. I mean, to a debunker, like, I'm full of shit, or I'm delusional, or whatever, and so it doesn't, I get that. But I don't care so much anymore in my life. This is more about, thank you for your service, debunker. I'll take it from here. You're right, we do need to have discernment. We do need to call BS BS, or call misidentification what it is. We do need discernment, folks. But what I know that you can't know if you aren't an experiencer is that it's discernment on behalf of actually figuring out what this is. That there is a there. And I'm saying this specifically now because I think Spank Flaps, if you're the person I'm remembering seeing somewhere, where I think it's you who had said on another thread that there is nothing to any of this, that all of this stuff is BS. And it's not. It just isn't. Actually life, and I apologize if it's not you or if you're a different Spank Flaps, but no, life, there is I guess sort of where I'm at with all this is there are magical things in life. And this question of aliens and stuff is actually an avoidance of the truth of the magical stuff. Magical meaning mystery with a capital M. Magical meaning. There is meaning out there. There is something that we are supposed to be. We're not just this construct of neurons and blah, 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 although we are that. But we're also not just all this stuff we say is human nature of just screwing up in the same exact ways over and over and over again, and history repeats itself. And here we are at war again, and here we are, oh, well, that's just human nature. I know because Shakespeare wrote about all of this already. That isn't true either. And I know this. This isn't supposition. I know it for a fact. And it doesn't, but I also know as part of that fact that it doesn't matter what I know to you. It matters that you see on your own what we're going to be exploring here, and then in so seeing, perhaps it affects a change. Not that you affect a change, not that you look at it and go, oh, yeah, that makes sense. But that the thing that's deeper than the critic or the acceptor as the non-judgmental person who's I accept everything. The mushy-brained person or the hardened person. You're both the same person. You're both a defense mechanism against truth that if truth is said in just the right way, it's like, does it work as a combination lock where it unlocks something and you just shut the F up and then the case becomes you? We'll see. But that's what it's going to take, folks, if you want to have like any sort of real shot at understanding this enigmatic other. This enigmatic other, as Terence McKenna said, just stealing his phraseology, it's not going to be, we're never going to get anywhere with it. We may not get anywhere with it anyway, but we're certainly not going to get anywhere with it as this sort of mentally ill thing that we are, which again isn't a judgment. I mean, it's just a fact. Like psychology tells us, psychologists tell us, which I am not one, but they tell us that the best we can be on our best day is slightly neurotic. Really? Well, then there's a problem here because, you know, I look around at all of the other flora and fauna around me, and they don't seem to have that problem, and yet we consider them lesser beings. That's amazing how that works. What else? Tracy Fassetti, not orbs, but I sometimes find myself in a field of energy that appears like geometric shapes. You know what sucks about reading this is, like, on my screen, there are no hyphens. So if it's like comes to the end of the line, it's like I got to figure out that there's one word, not two. But I'm sorry. Okay. Not orbs, but I sometimes find myself in a field of energy that appears like geometric shapes, often upon waking. Similar energy, perhaps. Find myself in a field of energy that appears like geometric shapes. Well, when you say find yourself in, does that mean that you open your eyes and where your room should be is like this field of geometric shapes? Or are your eyes closed and you're seeing geometric shapes? A lot of different things happen with the eyes closed. That's one of them that I've experienced, that I know other people have experienced. Trying to including the mushroom trip in a, you know, I think they were in the mind's eye. They weren't like in the room. But like they're like, one thing is like the flickering in of geometric shapes, and then there they are. The other is like, you know, if you close your eyes, sometimes the blackness in your mind's eye has a feeling of, or even of, I don't even know how it's a visual, but it just of like spreading out into the room with eyes closed. Like, and if you're in a dark room and that happens, you can open your eyes and see that, or feel it still. And then of course there's like, sometimes there's like a bright light, like somebody turned on a light and then you open your eyes and nobody's turned on a light. So yeah, there are all kinds of things. So it'd be interesting to me. Oh, okay. So she says, open or closed, but far more pronounced with eyes closed. Okay. Yeah. And then there's another thing for me. I haven't experienced this in a long time, because normally when I say that I meditate, all I mean is that I shut up and Kundalini comes alive and moves the body around. And so I tend to do that out on our gazebo and dance around and do all kinds of stuff. I used to do it like in a dark room, sitting on a couch or in bed or lying down. And when I would do that, sometimes like, you know, the big sort of black subspace landscape or whatever would come out, and I would see either like sort of a vortex of lights, like a spiral of lights, or lights in the room, not quite stars, but like a facsimile maybe. And I kept expecting something else to happen, like this has got to lead to something, right? And it never did. But I don't get that in the day, and I'm dancing around outside. But that I don't know if that's what you're talking about, but I'm just saying that's kind of how I can relate to that, I guess. Matt McCartney says, somehow there is a third thing, in quotes, that seems to exist between us and between is and is not. There seems to be a third. Yeah, I think that's right. This, Jeff Ritzman and I, one of, rest his soul, my old partner from Paratopia, one of the things that originally bonded us when we first met was that we were the only people we knew when we told each other this, who were fascinated growing up, wondering about what is the thing between things? What is the space between objects? Because there seems to be, there's something there. And, science almost makes it sound as though we're like in a room of like microscopic balls that we're just moving through like a Chuck E. Cheese, like we're just like, I don't know, like we're a fish tank full of balls. And we're just moving through them and they push aside as we go, or maybe they move through us. I don't know. But I don't know, that doesn't seem to answer it. And then of course, Jeff had his experiences change to like sit down chats with a shrouded being who was like, hey, you remember the time that you theorized about the space between spaces, or the thing between things? Well, that's where we come from. We come from a particle in your world. And it's like, that's interesting and convenient. So I don't know if that's what you're talking about. When you're saying that, Matt, if you're still there, have you experienced with that? Can you see a thing between things? I can, if I look and don't focus on like the wall in front of me or the camera here or whatever, it's clear that like my vision is particleized, right? Like it is, you can see particles and lights and stuff, and it may be because my eyes suck or whatever. I don't know that that's what the room is comprised of that I'm seeing, although it fits with the science, I suppose. But is it just how light comes into the eye and rods and cones or whatever? I don't know. Is that what we're talking about, or is that something else? But anyway, yeah, Matt, if you're still there and you want to type it out, just have you had an experience with a thing between things? Is that what we see when we're in contemplative or meditative or sleepy states? When we're talking about like orbs and stuff, are we seeing what's actually there in the world between worlds? I don't know. Although interestingly, so when I started this culture of contact thing, this stream, you'll note that there was a graphic with like a timer, and that I still keep screwing up, but okay. But the graphic itself was from my website, and it was Jeff created it for me. So it says Culture Contact at the top, and then it says walk, and it says something else on the sides. You might be like, well, what is that about? Well, when I had a website called Culture of Contact, I've even forgotten this. Like I had people who were writing for it. And I think it was Jeff who was writing for Walk. I think it was Rich Dolan and Nick Redfern. And maybe others, maybe Mac Tony's, I can't remember. But anyway, that's what those things are about. But my idea was, like, when I originally went to Jeff, I was like, Jeff, is there a way to make it look as though there are aliens looking through a wall, or like somehow they exist, in that in-between space, that they're watching us from right here? And there was sort of a silhouette-y alien graphic that used to bounce around in the window that now has the timer, but I can't find that. So he was working with my old, also deceased friend from high school, Leah Gay. Tracy, you remember her. She was my webmaster, and so they were working on the graphics together. So she may have plugged that in, or he may have sent it directly to her. I can't find it. But anyway, that was the original intent of the idea, was like, yeah, the alien ship, there's no alien ship in the sky. It's right here, and it's like looking through the wall at us. It's that close. Anyway, that's a lot more than you probably cared about at all. Rob Simpson says, on frequencies, I just read a great 1971 sci-fi by Ursula Le Guin, The Lathe of Heaven, on aliens, reality, changing dreams, hypnosis, and Dr. Haber's augmentor machine. Good. Okay, thank you. Now, everyone go read that. Okay. I've never read it, but I believe you. How about that? Rob, I validate you. On frequencies. Yeah, I mean, I guess in a way we are talking about frequencies. I always get, if you're familiar with me at all, I sort of balk at like when New Age people talk about frequencies and vibrations and densities, and then here we have this, and I know the science talks about it in these ways, and Kenneth Arnold said, hey, maybe this thing is coming in from another density, and that's why it's translucent. But I just, not in this case, Rob, I'm not saying with what you just wrote, obviously, but just personally, I tend to cringe when I hear these terms just because it brings me in mind of like the wishy-washy people who think hierarchically and like want themselves to get to a higher density, whatever the hell that means, So I guess if we're talking about frequencies and densities, in reality, it wouldn't be higher or lower to my mind. It would be this, that. It would be like flipping a switch. Like I'm here and you're there. Kind of like the culture contact thing of like, yeah, they're, but even, they're right there, but we can't see them. But even that is like, but if you can see us, if there is something, like even the orb that came into the window, if it really was a living sentient light of some sort, or I perceived it that way, and it just sort of shrugged its non-existent shoulders and went back out, it had to have perceived me, like we had to have been in a shared space, or if there's something on another side of an invisible curtain that can see us, how are they doing that unless our physics, our actual dimensionality, now here I'm going to sound like the New Age loon because I'm a pseudoscientist, folks. I'm not a scientist. But somehow we've got to be interconnecting in such a way that they can perceive us, but we can't perceive them. But therefore, it's because we're interconnecting through dimensions, we're not separate. And this is going to get into what I think is going on here. This sense of division, the sense of the alien and the human. The whole thing may be a facade. It may be, or it may be like improv. Yes, and. We are one, but we're also two. They know it, we don't. There, I just solved everything. Good night, everybody. Let's see. UFO Sunset. Hi, I didn't realize this was happening now. Neither did I. I did this as a surprise or whatever. I didn't schedule this. I sort of alluded to it the other day that I may do it, and then I just decided, let's do it. So my apologies. But as I'm getting used to this system, I wanted to see if I could just go live, or do I really have to like schedule things out with, Twitch and YouTube and Facebook. So we'll have to watch it later. Okay. I hope everyone's having a good time. Sounds like a fun exploration. Thank you, UFO Sunset. Do watch it later. I'm thinking about calling it quits. Matt, you never got back. So you're either writing a super long... When I was a boy, I once peered through to the wall and pierced the veil of reality, and there was a squiggly line that came out and went, blah, and then I realized it was tentacles of a jellyfish. Or you're not writing at all. It's definitely one of those two things. And I'm going to feel horrible if I cancel this live stream and you're still typing something. So maybe I'll give it like a couple more minutes here. Or maybe you'd be so kind as to just come in and be like, no, dude, I'm not writing anything. You can go away now. Go get a water. Well, I'll give it a couple of minutes for either. But whoever is there, what do you think about this, doing this live stream thing? Is this good? Because no one's actually told me whether they'd rather have an edited version of seminars, like a, thing I put work into, or like I just got my, okay, this is what I want to focus on this time, and go. And then we kind of do it this way. Although I would do a lot more babble up front and get all of my story out and then go to the chat and be like, okay, now what's everyone saying? What do you guys, not typing, says Matt. Okay, good. So I'm good to go. Thank you, sir. So someone type now. Do you like doing the live streams, or do you like the edited thing that you watch later? What's your preference? I'm actually having fun doing the live stream. So since this is actually working out for some reason, because my internet normally is terrible, but I don't know if this program, I'm using this thing, it's called Prism Live Studio, and it's free. So if anyone wants to do live streaming and you're like, Restream, StreamYard, these things are expensive. Well, Prism Live Studio is free. So if you have a decent computer and apparently crap internet, you're golden. You'll never have to pay for that stuff again. But don't let Prism Livestream know that, or they're going to start charging money or something. Let's see. Tracy Fassetti says, live Duckman in action is fun. Okay, good. It was enlightening, says Empower Up. Live streams are always neat. Joe Gooch, live is good. The only difficulty is the time differences. Music make lightning. Thanks, Jer. Always nice to see you. Matt Cartney, sorry. Live streams is good. Okay, live streams it is, folks. We're doing live streams. And Joe, is it safe? Says Rob Simpson. Is it safe? Is it safe? Why do I understand everyone's jokes? You know why? Because I'm overcompensating for not getting it yesterday, UFO Sunset. What did I want to ask here? Oh, well, maybe I'll just ask you, well, actually, a bunch of you are from the UK, right? So I will ask you one more question, live stream. If I do this live, I'm in Hawaii. So Hawaii time is ridiculous compared to any other time in the world. If I could do this on a Saturday, on the weekends, at around this time, or is this too late for you in the UK? What do you think? Because I think this works out for East Coast and West Coast in the US. Let's say I start at 11 a.m., which is 41 minutes ago. I originally started this around 10:30 a.m. my time. So, but if I start at 11, is that too late? Is this too late for you guys, or are you up? Joe Gooch, anyone? Blimey, crikey. Okay, I know crikey's not right. I'll wait. Shall I play my on hold music? Probably you've already responded, and it's just laggy. I'm an owl. Anyway, says Rob Simpson. Joe Gooch. That would be 10 p.m. UK time. Okay. So let's do that then from now on. Although sometimes I'm going to have to go to Costco. Which means we'll either skip that week or do a Friday. We'll do a Friday. Are Fridays better for people or Saturday? I guess, yeah. Maybe that one more question. Do you guys like Fridays or Saturdays? Fridays or Saturdays? On hold music. Yes, thank you. This is going to be real fun for anyone who's watching this later. Let me tell you. I guess that's also the joy of live streams is like all the downtime, man. No editing. Friday or Saturday. Come on, we're putting this to a vote. Everyone can vote on this. Tracy, you too. I know you're not in the UK. I see you. Friday, Saturday. Saturday, Friday. Tracy Fassetti, by the way, we did. She is my friend from high school, and or I am her friend from high school. We were friends in high school, is the point. And we did an episode on our Ouija board experiences in for Dreamland with Whitley Strieber, or with me, I guess, at that point. And then I listened back to it and I was like, ah, man, there are so many things that I just forgot. And actually, one of the things was you were saying, hey, we're talking about the week, and I'll talk about this for the culture contact thing too, but we're talking about the week where weird things were supposed to happen. We're all going to be tested. And you said, didn't you have your bed shaking and like your closet door open? And I said, no, I don't think that was me. And as I was thinking about it later, I do think it was me. Definitely the bed shaking. Like, I remember that. Like, oh, right. My bed would shake like all the time. Like all of a sudden it would just, and I don't even think it was just that week. It just started doing that. But there may have been a day where I woke up and my closet door was open. I had those accordion doors, and I seem to remember that. But I also think someone else had their closet door. I don't think it was just me. I could be wrong about that. And I remember our one friend, whose name I won't say because I don't recall if he talked about this publicly or not, but had a coffee mug flung at him, or, you know, like ridiculous poltergeist stuff going on that week. I just moved the whole table. Let's see. Gooch, either one works, Friday or Saturday. Tracy, either one, but I'd be around more Saturdays probably. Matt says Saturday. Tracy says, thank you for owning the original Zelda, by the way. Yes, you're welcome. I owned the two video games that anyone ever wanted to play in the 1980s on the ye old Nintendo. Legend of Zelda and volleyball. For some reason. You're welcome. You can actually thank my sister. That was when I got the Legend of Zelda. I remember for some reason I remember this distinctly. It was a birthday, and I had just gotten. I think I got a science calendar of like lightning, because my parents were like, "Oh, you're into UFOs, therefore you're into science. Here's a calendar with lightning." Like that, and a mug, I think, that said, "Damn, I'm good." A coffee mug, which I didn't drink coffee. So it was like the most disappointing birthday ever. This was my white privilege showing at an early age. But then my sister gave me like a treasure map. And ultimately it led me into the basement to either the washing machine or the dryer. I think the washing machine, where there sat The Legend of Zelda, the greatest game of all time. And I nearly cried, or perhaps did. And then my old man beat me, because boys don't cry. That's not true. My dad never beat me. In fact, he probably wasn't there. He was there. Okay, let's see. And you know who else was there? Was probably Cookie Puss, because I was way into the Carvel cakes, my friends. Oh, yes. Look it up. Let's see. I think the start today was 9:30 UK. British summertime. Saturday is good. Tracy says, I swear you told me your bed was shaking during that time. Yes. No, I confirm. My bed was shaking. You are correct. I was wrong. And I apologize. I don't know for what, but I was wrong. So, okay, Saturday wins. We will aim for Saturdays at 11 p.m. 9:30, you said. Wait. Okay, so 10 p.m. Wait, is it 10 p.m.? Can I scroll up this thing or not? Oh, wait a minute. I've got a larger chat here. I'm looking at the wrong... I'm sitting here squinting at the... Okay. Don't mind me. I'm going to talk to myself a minute. All right, so I'm going to start whatever time it was. If it was 9:30 a.m. p.m., I'm going to start a half hour later on Saturdays, and hopefully everyone in the world can make it. But as I said, there are going to be times, oh yes, there will, when I'm going to have to go to Costco, people. Yeah. We're just going to have to live with it. Either we'll do it a different night or we'll skip. All right. I sure hope this doesn't get in the way of my writing a book or doing He's So Vaeni, but something tells me. I really wanted to do Brazzo for He's So Vaeni this Sunday for Joe, but also for myself to clean my palate of the ufological crap that I just went through, all those disappointments, because nothing makes me laugh like a good Brazzo video. So when next I do He's So Vaeni, it will be Brazzo. Oh yes, the male gazer. And we'll see. We'll tackle Brazzo, which may be the first time he's ever been tackled in his life. Okay. Thank you all for coming to this. I do appreciate it. Do consider signing up at Ko-Fi for reasons. Probably because then you'll see the donate button and eventually you'll cave and you'll be like, okay. Okay, I came for the blog post about garbage that in Jer's head. But I keep seeing that donate button and now I feel like I get, it's like a casino. It's like you can say I'm just going to the casino because my friends want to gamble and now I'm stuck doing this. I'm just here for the shows or the free food, but something about the oxygen in the room and seeing the blinky lights, you're going to start playing something. So eventually you'll be giving me your money. And I will have officially turned into Gene Steinberg or Zachariah Sitchin, rest his soul. Or my impression of Zachariah Sitchin from... That too is a deep cut from the Culture of Contact days of 2008. You're welcome, everybody. All right, aloha, sweet dreams to my friends in the UK, to anyone in America, Canada, or wherever the hell you're from. Enjoy your day. All right, thanks again. I will see you next Saturday, or if we go to Costco, Friday.